We have with us Dr. Sudeep Srivastava, founder of Heal Foundation and Heal Health, which have been at the forefront of healthcare awareness through healthcare communication and have been instrumental in creating campaigns and platforms for healthcare improvements in India for the last 2 decades. He will be in conversation with Dr. N.K. Arora, the current executive director of Incline Trust International, and has been holding the post since 2005. He holds an MD in pediatrics from the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi, and has received MMSc in clinical epidemiology and biostatistics from the University of Newcastle, Australia, under the Incline Training Program. He was a faculty member of AIIMS since 1983 and retired as professor of pediatric gastroenterology, hepatology, and nutrition in 2007. Professor Arora is a well-known public health expert in India and is extensively involved in policy making, program planning, implementation, and evaluation of public health programs at both national and international levels.
What is the exact role of NTAGI? And we'd like to hear in your words, if you can list the key achievements of NTAGI under your chairmanship, sir.
NTAGI is a body of experts, external experts, who are not necessarily part of the government system and provide independent scientific advice on practically every aspect of immunization program and vaccination program in the country. So what happens that whenever a new vaccine is to be introduced, whenever the rollout process is involved, the program implementation, what is to be done to ensure vaccine safety, and even though regulators look at the data and release it, we try to look at the data provided by the manufacturer and see if there are additional studies which are required, which will be helpful in the long term. So the whole immunization program is taken up and approached in a very comprehensive manner and all aspects, and same issues may come up. And in fact, I'm so glad that during pandemic, this COVID pandemic, people have come to know about NTAGI, because NTAGI has been in existence since 2000, and India is one of those first countries where NTAGI was established. It is there in most of the countries, practically 90% of the globally it is present, and plays a important policy making and guidance role. Another dimension NTAGI plays is to review the immunization program from time to time, whether the program is on track or whether it requires any modification. So that is also part of the terms of reference of this particular expert group.
So can you, sir, throw some light on what prompted the government to increase the cap, and what is the current scenario on the 2 doses gap in Covishield? Will it remain the same, or you're doing a rethinking of some sorts?
So we started with 4 weeks, although at that time some countries and WHO was also saying, let us have it at 3 months. But the primary data, which was at that time, the only data was from the vaccine trial data, and the trial started with 4-week interval. 4 weeks later, we looked at the data again, and it looked like that 8 weeks may be appropriate. But by that time, our local Indian data had come, and also additional data from UK had come, that if we increase the interval, then the vaccine works better. And it is biologically also true that when you increase the dosage between 2 doses of the vaccine, the immune response, antibody response is better. And that is why around 13th of May, we decided to increase the interval between 2 doses at 3 to 4 months. The original data, whereby I would say default, there were large number of individuals in the original AstraZeneca trial where interval was more than 3 months. It was going up to 6 months. And they found that maximum protection was coming from there. So we decided to go in for this 3 to 4 month interval at that time. Our own data was showing. And over the time, we find that this interval has done very well, because here in this kind of a framework, the second dose actually works almost like a booster. So you give a first dose, and 3 to 4 months later, when you give the second dose, it works like booster.
So you also said, talked about in October, you said about Zydus Cadilac's COVID-19 vaccine ZyCoV-D will start in the next 2-3 weeks. So what is the situation, sir? And where are we, sir? Where is India with respect to new vaccines coming in the near future, sir? I'm not talking of the child, which I'll ask in the end, sir, because that is a very important, needs more deliberation. But what about other vaccines?
So let us take about ZyCoV-D. In fact, it's a matter of pride and honor that ZyCoV-D came to India. It is world's first DNA vaccine. And this technology, people have been working for almost 3 decades, but it didn't work so well. But India has come out with this technology. And it is the greatest advantage is what we call plug and play. You can change. So for example, we are hearing this new Omicron variant. And if a vaccine is to be prepared in about 2.5 or 3 months, we can have a new vaccine of DNA based or similarly mRNA based vaccine. So the second thing is, but it has a slow production line. So that is a limitation at the time, but I am told the manufacturers inform that the manufacturing is going to go up very rapidly in coming weeks and months. And now we know finally the vaccine, the manufacturer will probably deliver the first batch of 1 crore doses sometime next week, means in first week, 1 week or 10 days of December. And these locations, it will be rolled out in limited geographical regions because the number of doses are less. And the country is ready, the training programs and other things are going on. About the other new vaccines, we have a very robust pipeline for new vaccines. So there is mRNA vaccines, Genova's mRNA vaccine, which I think is going to be game changer for the whole world. It can be stored at 2 to 8 degrees, and phase 3 trials have started, I think somewhere in January. That should be available to our people. And it is much lower dose, so side effects are likely to be less as compared to Moderna and Pfizer, which people think are the benchmark. But no, this vaccine is going to be probably, and there are certain new things which are coming up as part of this mRNA vaccine. Then there is biological E is coming with a protein subunit, something like what is called hepatitis B ki tarah vaccine jo hoती hai. That is also a protein subunit. And so this vaccine is called Corbavax. They are doing phase 3 as well as in pediatric population. Serum Institute is also coming up with a vaccine called Covovax, which is also protein subunit, and that vaccine is also going to come up very soon by January or so. Third vaccine, which is going to be very exciting, is intranasal vaccine. The trials are already going on for phase 3 for intranasal vaccine, and this is from Bharat Biotech. And again, this is a transformative. This is a vectored vaccine. First time in the world that a nasal vaccine has come in. We are looking up to with a lot of excitement because ease of delivery is there. You put a small amount of vaccine into your nose and that's it. So it is no injection.
Why has Sputnik's rollout fizzled out, sir? Is it also due to phenomenal increase in COVID cases in Russia, which may have put hold on their supplies outside of Russia, or there is some other reason, sir?
See, Sputnik, by whatever initial trials we have seen the results, it's very promising vaccine. It is like the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, where the first dose is of a particular type of adenovirus, which is called adeno26. But Sputnik has two components. One is adeno26 and the second is adeno5. Now, adeno26 production has been very rapid. They are able to produce it in large quantities. But the second component, adeno5 component, the production is very slow, 1/5. So 1:5 kind of is the ratio. And this is the problem not only in India, because in India there are 5 companies, Even in Russia, they are having this difficulty. So they have tried with just the first dose, which they call as Sputnik Light, and that also provides, it's like Johnson & Johnson. As I said, Johnson & Johnson is one dose. It's not available in India, but it is approved and globally used. But another limitation with the Sputnik is that it requires minus 18 degree till the point of delivery. So if I have to give Sputnik to you, then I have to open the vial at minus 18 degree in front of you, wait for about half an hour or so, and then give it to you. So that is another very practical implication, and so it requires a much more elaborate infrastructure for giving the vaccine.
India has the largest adolescent population in the world, estimated at about 253 million by UNICEF. National Serological Survey data suggests about 60% of children have been exposed to coronavirus since the start of pandemic and are likely to have built up some immunity from past infection. You have been a leading pediatrician from AIIMS, sir, the Premier Institute. You also said that rollout of pediatric COVID vaccine will start by mid-October 2021 in India. But why this delay? When India will see the vaccine rollout for kids, and for what age group and in what phase manner, sir?
So I'll just update the information you gave me. So till 10 days ago, 33 countries had introduced pediatric immunization. This Monday, last Monday which passed, 44 countries had introduced vaccine for children. And I think this number must have increased as of today. So this number is increasing. So the point you are trying to make is the number of countries who are introducing pediatric vaccination is rapidly increasing, and even many of the low and middle income countries where their overall adult immunization is poor, they have also introduced. Now, I am part of the WHO panel also, STAGE and SAGE, which has come up with a position paper on pediatric immunization. Children are our most precious asset, and we certainly don't want anything which is inimical to their quality of survival and overall wellness. So one thing which has happened in India is that today whatever seropositivity we find in children indicate natural infection, because none of them have been vaccinated. So you mentioned 60-65% in July. As of today, it appears more than 80% or 85% of children are infected or seropositive. And this also indicates the population positivity for natural infection. So it's a very high proportion. There is no shortage of vaccine, and vaccine for children. Covaxin data is available. Covaxin trial was there for 2 years to 18 years. And similarly for Zycovi-D is for 12 to 15 years. Carbovax, which I was telling, and Covavax is for 5 to 17 years. So vaccine pipeline for children is already available. We are all ready for that. The only thing is that we have to make a well thought out plan so that the children who require first should be given prioritized, and then we immunize the rest of our children. And very soon we are coming out, and by hope that by first quarter of the coming year, we should be able to start vaccination for healthy children.
What's your take on the booster dose, sir? And when particularly WHO recently gave a statement of booster dose is like a scandal, which was quite alarming the way they put it forward. And there are so many conflicting statements. We recently had Dr. Fauci said that booster dose is must for all, as the effect of the initial vaccination would be fading now. So what is your take amongst all the confusion?
So there are three aspects. One is booster. That means you give a third dose after the primary schedule is completed. Second concept is additional dose. That means those individuals who do not develop adequate immune response, and you give one additional third dose. These are two different things. The second dimension is what is the epidemiology of natural infection in India. And Sanjay, I am sure he's very happy when I say this, that there is a huge number of people who are naturally infected. So with this, what is happening in Israel, what is happening in USA or Europe is not important. It's a good information, but ultimately we have to take a decision based on our own reality. As I said, vaccine shortage, vaccine requirement is not there. And that is why WHO has made that comment that it's a scandal. I mean, there are two types of immunity, antibodies, and there is invisible immunity, which is called T-cell immunity. And that immunity is, nobody talks about that. So we are again going to come up with a comprehensive policy in next couple of weeks, along with pediatric policy, where there is what are we going to do about additional doses, what are we going to do about boosters, and then the whole issue of pediatric. Here I would like to point out one very important point. For last 4 days, we are all worried about this Omicron, and which is B1.1.529, where more than 70 mutations have occurred simultaneously in the same virus. Now, this particular virus, will it respond to the traditional vaccines, whether it requires an additional vaccine or it requires a different vaccine? Nobody knows about it. And this will come up. So that is why these strong words like scandal is being used, because every time, it means every 6 months, are we going to give vaccines to everybody? So these are larger issues. There are a lot of gaps in the scientific evidence. And as the evidence develops, the whole philosophy of Indian policy making is our people should be protected in the best possible manner. Recent trend, what is showing is that number of cases have come down from 400,000 plus cases on 7th May. It has come down to around 7,000 to 10,000 cases in last 1 week or so. So I think if we follow corona appropriate behavior, get both the doses of the currently available vaccine, that's the best policy.